Justice Irvin, you're an associate justice on the Supreme Court of North Carolina. How would you explain what the court does?
Well, the technically correct answer is that we are the top portion of a four-court judicial system. Our job is to hear appeals. Appeals are not retrials. Appeals are proceedings in which we try to determine whether trial courts correctly decided legal issues. Our role in the system is to decide the most difficult, most complicated cases that come into the court system in the hopes of producing finality in the law, clarifying the law, making sure that the law is equally applied to everybody across the state. That's what I think our essential role in the system should be.
It really goes to the heart of what is the everyday life of citizens.
It does. I mean, what we do, and my father, who was a Superior Court judge and a federal appellate court judge, really emphasized this to me in my conversations when I was much younger, was that what a court does, regardless of the level that it sits at in the system, affects individual people broadly and has real impact. And he used to tell us that not so much to make us decide cases on non-legal grounds, but to emphasize to us that what we did had real-world consequences, and the decisions that the Supreme Court of North Carolina make very definitely have real-world consequences. We deal with large civil cases that deal with major business issues. We deal with criminal cases that affect lots of different litigants around the state. We deal with the constitutional type issues that you and I talked about that in recent years have included a lot of litigation about the relative powers of different branches of government. And those decisions really do affect almost every citizen in the state in some shape, size, or fashion.
You were elected to the court in 2014, and some of the things you talked about when you first ran were that the future of the courts were at issue. And I know you still think that's the case.
I do.
Tell us about that.
The concern that I have about the future of the court system is, does it continue to do what it's supposed to do? What the court system should be, at least in my view, is a place where everybody can come and be confident that what's going to happen to any case that they're involved in is that the decision will be based on what the facts are. My concern has been that, and remains, that there are factors that put that system at risk. We have had a series of elections. When I first got elected to the Court of Appeals and was elected to the Supreme Court, those were nonpartisan elections. The General Assembly has decided that these elections ought to revert to partisan status. I'm concerned about that because I think it tends to suggest that judges make decisions on a political basis when, at least in my opinion, they shouldn't, and I try very hard not to. Other factors that have led me to be concerned about that are the increasing amount of money that's being spent in judicial elections. We at one time had a public financing system for judicial candidates that I took advantage of when I ran for the Court of Appeals. I thought it was a good system. I think it's still probably viable at the Court of Appeals level. I'm not sure, given U.S. Supreme Court's decision about dark money, that you can maintain that at the Supreme Court level. But that was a good system, I thought, because it tended to depoliticize judicial campaigns a little bit. You see judicial candidates running around putting ideological labels on themselves. That kind of thing troubles me, because the average citizen is going to look at that and think of that as a person who is broadcasting how he or she is going to make a decision, and whatever ideological label you choose to use, that label shouldn't affect how you look at what the law is. It's important for people to be involved in judicial elections. If you believe in a fair, an impartial, and a non-political court system, this is a time to get involved in judicial races, because I think it's important for people to stand up for the principles that at least I believe to be appropriate, which are that you decide cases on the basis of the facts, the law, and nothing else.
What do you do for fun?
Well, I do a lot of different stuff. The thing that I seem to spend the most time on recently is I officiate high school and age group soccer matches. That may be a strange way to have fun for a lot of people, but I do enjoy getting outside, and I was never a very good athlete, but it's a way to stay involved in that kind of community. It's relaxing in kind of an odd way. You wouldn't think of being yelled at by players or coaches or spectators would be relaxing, but it's a way to get your mind off of other things. I enjoy hiking a great deal. My kids and I love to spend time in the mountains. One of my sons and I actually managed to climb the 40 mountains in the southeast that are over 6,000 feet tall. It took about 10 years, but we got that done. And every year we try to go take a hiking trip somewhere.
What would your supporters would say are your biggest strengths as a justice?
I think people would say that my biggest strengths are that I prepare a lot. I spend a great deal of time working on each individual case to make sure that I understand it. I'm a pretty detail-oriented kind of a person, and so spend lots of time trying to make sure that I understand the potential ramifications of any case that we decide. And then I know I have a reputation for writing long opinions, but one of the reasons that my opinions are long is I don't want to leave any doubt about what the court holds. I mean, I'm sure you've had the experience as a lawyer, I know I did, of reading appellate opinions where I got to the end of it and I thought, okay, I know who won, but I'm not really sure why, and I need to know why in order to advise my client about how to handle this case. And I try not to leave any doubt about what the decision in my case is, and the cases are, and the reasoning that's behind it, in order to make sure that the law is clear going forward. I would think those would be my greatest strengths. The important thing is that people ought to be able to read a judicial opinion and understand what the opinion holds and why it holds it. Because if you don't have those two, if the opinion doesn't have those two characteristics, people are not going to know what to do with similar cases in the future. Jack, it's a great privilege to be able to do what I do, and I'm more grateful than the people of the state will ever know to have had the opportunities to be in public service that I've already had between my time at the Utilities Commission, at the Court of Appeals, and now at the Supreme Court. I've been given a great privilege to serve the citizens of the state. It's something that I've always wanted to do. Very few people have had that kind of opportunity, and I'm more grateful than I can tell you that I've had that privilege.